and welcome to Legally Invested, where we talk about all things intellectual property, how to monetize your IP, and also how to use them in our new digital world. Today, I have a super special guest, my husband, Adam Witzburg. So Adam and I have been exploring NFTs, Web3, crypto. For me, with my business, the intersect between intellectual property and digital art has just been fascinating. And I've really taken the time to learn and to explore. And so my husband and I, we've purchased NFTs. Our WOW is one of them, which we just said goodbye to, and I'm super sad about. And I'll explain why I now have to take it down and not include it in my backgrounds going forward. But so today we're going to talk about all things NFTs.
Cool.
So Adam,
Yes.
what is an NFT?
NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is essentially it's either a digital contract or a digital token that's attached to any of the blockchains that exist. So basically something like the Ethereum blockchain or Avalanche or Solana or something of that nature.
So why is everyone talking about NFTs? Why are they so important?
NFTs are really important because it, for the first time, allows us to verify the owner of something digitally. So as it stands today, nobody can really verify, like, for example, if somebody creates a meme on the internet and it goes viral, it's very hard to locate the origin and the person who created it, and the person who created it probably isn't earning or monetizing their creation of that image. And so what's interesting about NFTs is that they allow us to digitally verify the owner and the origin of something online. And that's a completely new technology.
Fascinating. But so in practice, right, what are we seeing? Like, what is the actual use of the NFTs?
As it stands today, most people are just using them as they're like digital art collections. So a common number is an artist will put out 10,000 digital images. They'll all have like a base image, for example, the world of women behind us. It's the image of the female, and then there's different attributes, things like hair, glasses, clothing, the background, stuff like that. So as it stands right now, they're basically using them just to create collections of digital art. And then by owning the NFT, you're one of the verified owners of that collection. And people believe that there is scarcity because there's only a certain number in the collection. So there's a value behind that. And so these NFT projects have created their own little economies by having their limited 10,000 picture collections. And then those are being bought and sold, essentially traded on exchanges or NFT exchanges.
So one of the things I was noticing at the beginning where people were selling NFTs that were just a link to the file, really with nothing more besides being able to use it as your profile picture. But there was an evolution where people wanted utility.
Right.
So that came the roadmaps. And so can you talk about what else are NFT owners getting with some of the recent projects where the teams actually want to give something besides just the NFT?
I mean, as it stands today, like NFT projects, I would say, are making a lot of promises, but they're trying to implement utility. So there's some where they're doing like in real life meetups and events. The NFT gives you access to certain things. So for example, the V Friends collection by Gary Vee, that Series 1 NFT of his collection gives you access. It's a ticket to a conference that he's hosting for the next 3 years. It's going to bring together a lot of NFT influencers and artists and things like that, people interested in this space. So that's one utility, is access to certain things. And I think that that access can grow and will be used in different ways over time. But right now, just things like meetups and conferences are kind of like the base level of it. There's also implementations of things. So one of the utilities is what's called play to earn. So you have an NFT that is a character in a game. So basically your NFT that you own is your access into a game and its own ecosystem. And in those games, you can earn tokens, which is essentially like each game has its own cryptocurrency, which you can use within the game. You can earn it, you can accumulate it, and then you can convert it into another cryptocurrency, like for example Ethereum, and then Ethereum can be converted into US dollars. So you have access to events with NFTs, you have play to earn NFTs. Those are kind of like the big implementations that you see now.
Yes, and I keep hearing the word utility. And from an IP perspective, without any contractual language to the contrary, all you're really getting is a digital file that is linked to a hash on the blockchain. So it's a verified digital asset, but you're not getting any copyright ownership of the artwork. And that kind of like blows people's minds. But if you think about it, when you buy a piece of art in the real world, right? So let's say you spend a lot of money buying a Picasso, you put the picture on your wall, that doesn't give you the right to go and take the artwork and make t-shirts using the art or make derivative works. That's well understood when it comes to physical art, and it's the same thing with digital art. However, people do want more utility, as we keep saying, so that's why we're seeing this evolution of actual projects giving intellectual property ownership. So a good example is the WoW. We purchased the WoW, and the team gave intellectual property copyright ownership of the image. So I hired an artist to create a derivative of me, which you see in my current profile picture. And there's all sorts of things that I can do. It's really up to what the project team wants to give. And so now that we have officially sold her, super sad, but there will be more opportunities in the future for really cool projects. It is inauthentic for me to have it as my profile picture and to have it up there after today. So you won't be seeing her in the rest of my videos. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because that's something that people keep saying, like that confuses people. Like, why can't you? Who cares? What's the difference between me just right-clicking and saving an image versus paying a ton of money in ETH for an NFT?
Anybody can right-click and save an image on a computer. There's no doubt about that. But with NFTs, you could be very quickly exposed for not being the actual authentic owner of that image, because somebody can very quickly look up that image on the collection and verify on the blockchain who the actual owner is. So it's kind of like today when you see like Instagram celebrities and things like that, where they're posting like they're on private jets and they're flying around, and then they get exposed that it was just a rental, or they went down and rented time so they could take a picture on somebody else's private jet or next to somebody else's Lamborghini. And in the future, as things are more and more verifiable on blockchain and everything is moved over into NFTs and blockchain, it's going to be the same thing. You have these collections where profile pictures like the World of Women, like Bored Apes, like VFriends, like CryptoPunks, these are worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you're trying to portray that you own those things, everyone's going to be able to see 100% on the blockchain whether it's true and authentic or whether you're just putting up a false front. So I think that really changes how people will be perceived, and those people who are trying to show off their wealth or to flex, as everyone says, it's now going to be verifiable, and so people are going to have to be really careful. So right-clicking and saving, yeah, you might have the picture, but nobody's going to care because everyone's going to want to see it in your digital wallet, and your digital wallet is going to be everything. It's going to be the representation of you, and just as it stands today, that's not really a thing. It just doesn't quite exist yet.
Yes, and so a good analogy is, again, going back to the Picasso.
The Mona Lisa.
Sure, the Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah.
So anyone can go on Google, right-click and save a photo of the Mona Lisa and post that picture on your Instagram account.
But would anybody believe that you own it?
No.
No. But I would also argue, too, that everybody who right-click saves or everybody who goes and takes a picture of the Mona Lisa on their camera, even though they have that image, they obviously don't own the original, but every person that takes a picture of the Mona Lisa, every person that talks about it, the more and more that happens, I actually think that is something that kind of like increases the value and the the allure of that one-of-one piece of artwork. So even if people are right-clicking and saving your NFTs, it actually probably ultimately just makes it more valuable in the eyes of the people who recognize where the ownership lies.
Yeah, and I mean, as an IP lawyer, there's all sorts of copyright issues. You're not supposed to be doing that. But I also see in the NFT community now that, like, for example, Bored Apes, they're getting knocked off all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But for the exact reason that you said, they're not aggressively enforcing it, because for them it's PR, it's
Right.
branding.
Yeah.
So until there's a project that really steps on their toes, they're probably just going to monitor it and say, okay, like, great, thanks.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the interesting things going on with NFTs is, for example, Bored Apes, the collections that have given more rights to their owners and their holders have actually surpassed the value of those that are very strict and trying to keep all of their IP for themselves. So for example, CryptoPunks used to be the #1 collection, and these were selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars and still are, but Bored Apes has passed them in value because Bored Apes is doing a lot more for their community, aka their holders of their NFT tokens. And by giving more rights to the holders, the value of the collection has really skyrocketed.
Yeah, and it's a great intersection of intellectual property rights, the law, and the rights themselves, because IP can literally affect the value of your assets. I think that's huge. We have people talking about whether or not you have the rights to the IP. And think about it, like, intellectual property is really everything. And if you are a project team or you are a business and you're thinking about how to create utility, giving certain rights to the NFT holders is something that's really important. And you don't have to just have a blanket and say you have all rights, intellectual property rights. Some projects actually will say that we give you a limited right to use the image in connection with clothing or connection with shoes at a maximum capacity at $5,000. It's literally whatever you want to do. There's no limit to it. The limit is your creativity and how you then articulate those terms and put them into a contract. So again, you have to make sure that you're working with an intellectual property attorney to really get those terms down and on your website and in your terms of service and with your NFT license. So let's talk about the technology itself. So right now, you and I were just talking about like the first iteration of NFTs, which is basically like PFP, profile pic projects that are digital art.
Right.
But what else do you think we're going to see come out of the next iteration of NFTs?
I mean, there's just like tons of possibilities of where NFTs are going to go. You hear people talking about like the title to your car or your home being stored on a blockchain, which would make it an NFT. I've seen car companies talking about your vehicle diagnostics, your oil changes, the mileage, all of that stuff being sent to the blockchain in the form of NFTs, which I think is super interesting. There's going to be musicians releasing NFT collections to fund their albums versus going to record labels and signing a deal where they, give away 80% of their, their royalties to the record label and keep 20% for themselves. There's a lot of talk of people, funding their record producing and stuff like that through NFTs. You're already seeing artists, basically turn all of their art into NFTs. I think that there's going to be basically any collectible. So things like, things that you want to verify that are authentic. For example, like trading cards and memorabilia for sports and stuff like that. I envision like every actual physical asset that we want to verify is the original, like a signed baseball will come with an NFT. And there'll be some kind of barcode or label placed on that physical product that, when you sell it, you have to transfer the NFT to that person with it. And if you're not able to transfer the NFT, then that would show them that actual physical good is not the authentic version. I think you've talked to me about how they're going to somehow implement that with, fashion brands, luxury goods like, luxury pocketbooks and watches and jewelry and shoes and all kinds of stuff that's worth thousands of dollars and has value on secondary markets when it trades hands. But there's so much counterfeiting. I think NFTs are going to take us leaps and bounds forward as far as like verifying the authenticity of certain collectibles and certain goods.
Yes, so let's take a minute to actually define the technology. So an NFT is a verifiable digital asset that is verified using blockchain technology. That's why it's really so revolutionary, is because you don't have to have a middleman who's using their own subjective judgment on calling something legitimate or not. I mean, think of the art world. There's like some crazy statistic that they think most or majority of the art is actually counterfeit.
Right. It's like, on the TV shows where they, like the pawn shows, where they bring in experts to verify if everything is authentic or not, and you have to take this person's word for it. In the future, all of these assets will be cataloged and they'll be created alongside an NFT that verifies that it is in fact original. And so you won't really need you won't have that doubt. You won't need as many of those people because everything will be easily verifiable on the blockchain.
Yes, and then with the smart contract, that's another piece of the tech that's really revolutionary, because you can actually, in the contract, give royalties to the original artist.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's actually functioning this way right now with digital art. You can set it up so that every time one of your pieces of art, let's say you have a 10,000 piece collection of digital art, every time one of those sells, you can make it so that you as the creator get a 5% royalty. So like right now in the art world, when an original piece of work from a famous artist sells, for example, if a Picasso sells, Picasso's family doesn't get any money from that. But if you create an NFT collection and it's in the smart contract that the creator gets a 5% royalty on every transaction forever, that's money that you're accumulating every time they change hands. And as some of these collections are changing hands very quickly and very regularly, as there's a lot of speculation as it stands right now, the creators are racking up, millions of dollars in royalties from their NFT collections.
Yes. And I also see how some projects are giving a percentage of royalties back to the holders. So especially with like fashion brands or something where there's a physical component that you can count how much revenue they've made, you can actually link it to that. So let's say your book an NFT, and on your roadmap, you give to your NFT holders a certain amount of royalties based on the percentage of sales that you made of the actual print book.
Right.
Like that, that's a great example of the artist being able to give back to the community that's investing in them. It's also almost like you're tokenizing your brand, you're tokenizing your intellectual property and allowing people to buy those tokens and invest in your brand and your work and whatever it is that you're offering.
Yeah, it's like if, you can use the music example. It's like, let's pretend that Rihanna had released a 10,000 piece NFT collection when she was trying to make her first album. And sold them for whatever, $500 a piece. She could have raised all of that money and used that to record her first album, and those NFTs over time could be collecting royalties. They would certainly be going up in value. You're essentially investing in an individual or in an idea or in a business on the ground floor. As the economy grows around that individual and the value of those NFTs go up, you're rewarding the early investors and the early holders or the long-term holders of the NFT. And like right now, that's something you can't do. You can't invest on the ground floor of a musician that you really like. You can't invest on the ground floor of an author that you really like and have it be something that makes you money over time. There's only, VC companies and stuff like that, and, agencies and publishers and stuff like that who make that money. But now you're going to keep more of the money in the hands of the creator and the people who believed in them early on. And it's something that's going to revolutionize a lot of industries where disrupt, yeah, big time, where people are, currently giving away a lot of their rights to monetize their own work, whatever it is. And I think they're going to keep a much higher percentage in the future and share the rest of it with the people who believed in them really early on. And, those people who believed in them will be rewarded handsomely down the road.
Great example. And I mean, you defined NFT at the beginning, and we just talked for however long about all of the uses that we're seeing and how this technology can be used really for so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's social currency, it's branding, it's marketing, it's community building, it's investing, it's giving back to the community, it's cutting out the middleman. I mean, I could literally list so many reasons why it's revolutionary, but when it comes to the market right now, where do you think we are with NFTs? Do you think that we're going to see a difference in the market? Like, tell us a little bit about like the current state of the market and where you think it's going.
I mean, I think that, the NFT market is super young, and this is like a really new technology, and it's changing so much every single day that NFTs as they stand today aren't the same, as they were in October, November of last year, or even May of last year, when a lot of like the big collections like Bored Apes, for example, really were getting started and just building. Like right now it's become really saturated. It's full of a lot of people that are just doing cash grabs. So basically like they're creating collections, they're hyping them up, they get tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers, and then they mint a collection, meaning they, release them to the public for purchase, and they're collecting tens of millions of dollars. So there was a collection that minted and they brought in $70 million. It was called Pixelmon, and it was super hyped up. They had hundreds of thousands of followers. And when they released the art, it was absolutely like a joke. It looked like it was drawn like with a crayon, and people freaked out. So people lost thousands of dollars. But the holders lost thousands of dollars.
I'm sorry, the project team
made $70 million, and the holders are left with these NFTs that are going to be worthless. They essentially already are. They've, if you purchase one at the mint price, which was something like $7,000 or $8,000, which is already very crazy, now they're worth, a few $100s, and those people are left, as you say, holding the bag. The space is very crowded now. It's kind of like, I feel like it's losing steam a little bit. They're getting a little discouraged with what's going on. And so, as it stands today, there's some great collections. There's some people trying to do really cool things. But I think what you realize is, you're essentially giving a lot of money to creators that a lot of times you don't even know who they are. They're putting out a roadmap that says what their plans are for the project, but that takes time. So you're investing in people that you don't know. There's a lot of risk involved. As many people say, and I'm sure you've mentioned before, probably 98 or 99 or a higher percentage, 99.9% of the projects that exist today, there's only going to be a couple of them that actually stand the test of time. So right now, people are just speculating in NFTs. It's essentially, it's a new method of gambling, realistically. But some people have done really, really well because they got in early and the market's gotten really hot and things have gone up. But I think that as it stands today, there's definitely a bit of saturation. There's a lot of scammers. There's a lot of bad actors just trying to do cash grabs. And you need to be really careful. You don't just buy something and make money overnight, especially right now. A lot of people are buying stuff and it's currently going down, so you have to be careful.
I make the analogy, history repeats itself. I was a history major. I'm fascinated by the fact that history literally repeats. So this is similar to the dot-com boom, which was a bubble, which burst. And so with the invention of the internet, people thought this was such cool technology. I could literally create a website that is a new .com business. And people were buying domain names and creating online businesses. And people were investing in them thinking this is the greatest thing ever and you can actually make money. Then it got so hot that that's when the day trading began. So people started day trading for those businesses. And then it got saturated. People started to really ask, what is the value? Is it overpriced? Are we over evaluating? And then turns out when you probe a little bit, yes, these businesses aren't doing anything great, and that's when the bubble burst. But from that came the birth of
Amazon,
the Amazons,
eBay,
Facebook, eBay. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So with that analogy, like, do you think that's going to happen?
I do. I think it's going to happen. It might be happening now. It might happen in the next 6 months or a year, but it's probably going to happen. You know, when you look at what the NFT industry today has evolved into, it's basically just a ton of hype and speculation and gambling and basically day trading. The problem is that you could probably get out of a bad stock trade pretty darn quickly most of the time. You might take a loss, but with NFTs, they're, as we say when we're talking about NFTs, they're illiquid JPEGs. And what that means is that they're very hard to trade. There's not a lot of liquidity or money changing hands super quickly. It's actually very slow. And so if there's a lot of fear or doubt in the market and you list your NFT for sale, it might end up that nobody buys it. It could sit for sale for days or weeks. So you have to be really careful. Yes, there's probably a bubble. You know, 99% of these creators are just trying to make money today, and they're probably not the most savvy business people that are going to turn around and create successful businesses. There will be a few that probably do really well and will create great businesses from these early NFTs, but the majority probably will not. And a lot of them are going to go to zero. You're just going to be stuck with a little picture of something that you probably spent a few $100 or a few $1,000s on, and you may never be able to sell it for more than a few dollars.
So based on that current snapshot of where we're at as of March 2022, what would your advice be to people who are interested in learning about NFTs but really don't know where to begin?
I think there's a ton of good resources on the internet. You can start with YouTube and just research what is an NFT, you know, go on Twitter, learn about NFTs. Like, I think the NFT community kind of lives on Twitter. And so if you're interested in learning about them, just, you know, find some of the bigger accounts that are talking about NFTs and go learn and go watch. I just think that, you know, there's a lot of information available. Just take your time. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to get into NFTs. You could probably go buy your first NFT for $20 or $50 if you really want to. So, you know, it's a good experience to learn the technology, to learn about, you know, how do I buy crypto? Then how do I put that crypto into a digital wallet like MetaMask, for example, is one of the crypto wallets you can use. And then how do you connect that wallet to a website or an exchange where you can buy an NFT? There's definitely steps to it. And I don't recommend messing around with it when you don't know what you're doing with thousands of dollars. Do it with a few $100s to be careful, learn the technology, learn what's going on, you know, behind the scenes so you can get a feel for it. And then if you want to make an investment in something, you know, go ahead, do that, but just be careful and recognize that many projects that are out there today are probably not going to return exactly what they promised. So you just need to be really careful when you're doing any investing in the space.
And what would your advice be to people who are looking to launch NFT projects?
My advice would be, you know, just make sure that it's something that you really want to do. Make sure that it's not just you trying to do a cash grab. If you're launching an NFT project, you have to be prepared to grow that and deliver on your promises, whatever they are, when you set out and sell your NFTs to your community. So, like, you know, if you sell, you know, 5,000 or 10,000 NFTs or whatever it is to a community of people, there's a pretty good chance if you sell that out that they believe that you're going to deliver something that's going to make them money or create value for them in the future. And if you don't have the intention of doing that, I would highly recommend that you maybe avoid launching NFTs, because once you do that, like, your name's out there. NFTs, everything on the blockchain, it's all verifiable and it doesn't go away. It's there forever. And I think that's something that people need to remember about NFTs in a bigger context, is that information doesn't go anywhere and you can't hide it. So if you do a cash grab and try and sell NFTs and then you never deliver on any of your promises, people are going to see that. That project will be out on the blockchain forever and you'll never be able to hide from it. So, you know, only launch a project if you really feel and truly believe that it's a passion of yours and it's something that you're going to deliver on for the people who get involved with your project.
Yeah, and a couple of branding tips, then a couple of legal tips. So from a branding perspective, just because you have a big community online, on Instagram, on TikTok, does not necessarily mean that you're going to have a successful NFT project for the exact reasons that you said. Is if you're just thinking, oh, well, I am a celebrity and I have millions of followers and I could just throw up an NFT project and people are going to want to buy and invest into me. I mean, we've seen a couple of celebrity projects not go well. Now, that's a bad PR move if you mint it at a certain price and now people are trading at a low value. It's like not a good PR move.
Sure. It just looks bad, yeah.
It looks bad. So you really think about the utility. What are people getting? There's definitely ways that as a celebrity or someone who has a big community content creator coach, you will be able to launch a successful NFT project, but really think about what it is that you want to give to your community. How are you going to add value? Not value just in the short term, but really over
a long term.
The long term.
Absolutely.
And then from a legal perspective, of course, these NFT names, I take the position that they're brands. I mean, they really have become brands, some of them. Definitely Bored Ape Yacht Club, all their partnerships, they have their trademark applications. So you want to make sure that the name you're using is available. You want to file your trademark applications. The artwork can be protected by copyright. You also need someone, an intellectual property attorney, to look at the artwork and make sure that you're not infringing anyone else's rights. We've seen some crazy IP issues and scandals where people have already released the artwork, released the NFTs, and then when you find out that all the artwork was infringing. It's a major problem. And then the last piece is really like your contracts. So I argue that your roadmap is also a contract. People are just throwing up things for their roadmaps and maybe they intend to execute them, maybe not, but I think that that's what we're going to see in the future is people being held accountable to those terms that they're putting out. Then, of course, you have your terms of service, which governs your website use, your privacy policy, because you're collecting a personally identifiable information, and then also the NFT license. So what exactly is the NFT holder getting? That's like a super broad snapshot of some of the intellectual property issues, but I really think what we're going to start seeing is we're going to continue to see more IP issues, securities issues are going to play a role, and also the fraud. I mean, like the amount of fraudulent and scammy projects that are out there, I think we're going to see that kind of come to a head.
I think too, like you said, if people are starting to be held accountable for their roadmaps, there's a high percentage of NFT projects out today who are going to be in trouble if that's the case, because there's people putting out roadmaps, which is basically like their business plan or what they say they're going to be doing. And I mean, they're either doing nothing or they're missing those projections by a long shot. You have to be really careful when you see a roadmap. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything's actually happening behind the scenes. A lot of people just throw them together to make it look like they're, actually a business and that they're operating, but, half of them aren't doing much.
Yes. So Adam and I, we're just really NFT enthusiasts. We invest, we collect, but also I am an intellectual property attorney. He's a mortgage banker, but this is not financial advice or legal advice. We're just super passionate about the technology, and some of our friends and colleagues have asked us to make a video to talk about this, and we hope that you found this informative and fun.
Yeah, and I think I just want to conclude by saying, given the state of the NFT market today, I don't think necessarily the NFTs as they stand today are like the most exciting thing that's going to come from NFTs. I think it's the underlying technology that's going to revolutionize businesses across the world. That's something that you have to pay attention to. Like, are there people making a lot of money in NFTs today? Yeah, absolutely. But most of it's just hype and speculation. I think that it's in such an early stage of this technology that right now people are sitting there behind the scenes developing and building this technology out in such an amazing way towards applications that we'll never even be able to imagine for the next, few years. It's like the example of, when the internet came out, when people started using it in 1998, 1999, 2000, people could hardly imagine what Facebook would be like, right? Like that wasn't even, it wasn't a concept that we could really grasp. And yet Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, these companies that have come out of the internet technology have changed our lives in a massive way. And so my biggest point with NFTs is that you don't need to do something right now because the technology is so new and it's so early, but you should be paying attention because there's such big things coming with this blockchain technology, with digital ownership, owning things in the digital realm that we've never had before, and just being able to verify things, even if it's not ownership, but it's being able to verify information on a public record that's unchangeable and there forever. There are just going to be some massive implementations of this technology that not only going to revolutionize our lives, but it's going to create massive amounts of wealth for people. And so that's why I think that if you're looking for the next great investment or the next thing that you can get in early on, it's just pay attention to this technology because there's big things coming. It's just something that I don't think you want to sleep on, because 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it might be one of those things that most likely it'll be a thing that you can't ignore, and you're going to wish that you paid attention a little bit earlier.
Thanks guys for watching.